Hey there, if you're somebody who is on a reading slump, or if in case you've predetermined goals on Goodreads and you would want to achieve them, then this is a must watch video for you, so keep watching till the end. Hi, this is Amrutha Varshini, and you are watching me on Aid Virtual. So, if in case you're somebody who does not have the patience or you don't have the time to read big fat books, then this is your video, and I'm going to recommend few books that are under 100 pages. Now, this is a video that has something for everybody's taste because if in case you're somebody who wants to read non-fiction, I'm going to recommend few non-fiction books, and if in case you're looking out for fiction reads under 100 pages, I'm going to recommend a few fiction reads as well. So without further delay, let's just get started. Yeah, so I'll just begin by talking about few fiction books that you should read, and they are super simple books and easy to read books. Now, the first book that I would recommend is this one by Haruki Murakami, which is The Birthday Girl. Now, if you look at this book is actually in the form of a dialogue which primarily takes place between a waitress and her manager. Now, the setting is on the girl's 20th birthday. It is her 20th birthday, and then the whole story covers that one particular day. And there's some air of mystery about the book, and it is an extremely easy read as far as the style is concerned. You'll probably take about 30 minutes at the max to finish this book. And because this book is open ended, there could be a lot of interpretations. The book lends itself to multiple interpretations, which adds a lot of value to the book. I really love the author, Haruki Murakami. He's one of my favorite writers. And the best thing about this book is that it was published in order to celebrate the 70th birthday of Murakami. The second book that is on my list is something that I've recommended already, and that is The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. I've already reviewed this book on my channel. I will leave the link up here so that you can check out the review video as well. Now, this book, it is actually about Grigor Samsa, a traveling salesman. And one day he wakes up and he is astonished to find himself having metamorphosed into an insect. And soon after he has changed, he realizes that people change over time, and the family that once loved Kafka begins to look at him with disgust and contempt, and they want to get rid of Samsa as soon as possible. So that is the tale of Grigor Samsa, and a lot of Kafka's works are based on the theme of existentialism, and so is Metamorphosis. Now, this book is truly less than 100 pages, and it is an extremely easy read. You can also listen to the audiobook version of Metamorphosis on the Storytel app. And if in case you want to buy any of these books, the links to buy all the books will be in the description below. So do by using those links in the description. Although this novel is extremely sad and bleak, it's still thought-provoking because you realize how once you are a liability, even your own family doesn't love you anymore. So it's actually sad but still thought-provoking. The next book on my list is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Now, if you're somebody who assumes that reading Dickens is extremely hard, then you should give A Christmas Carol a shot because it is an extremely easy read. A lot of people read this book during Christmas, and that is precisely because this book is festive and it is also didactic. It is about somebody who actually rejects the family on certain grounds and then sets themselves apart. And it is also about the corrupting influence that money could have on human life because it sucks the joy out of our lives. Now, if I want to talk about the style in which this novella is written, it is pretty simple. It is set in Victorian England. So, of course, there are a number of phrases that are Victorian, but surely they are easy to understand. Once you read them, they are simple and they are easy to understand. The fourth book that I would recommend is actually one of my favorite reads, and it was recommended to me by my brother some time ago. And then I read it only recently, and that is The Broken Wings by Khalil Gibran. Now, this is one of my prized possessions, the collected works of Khalil Gibran. It actually has a number of his works, like The Prophet, The Broken Wings, The Madman, The Wanderer, and so on. So, this is one of my favorite books. I love keeping this book with me. This is Khalil Gibran's love story, and it is about his love for a woman, Selma Karimi, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So, yeah, this book is actually one of those best romantic books that I've ever read, and probably one of those best stories that have ever been written. So there are, of course, certain places that really shake you up because it's extremely tragic. It is a tragic novella. And of course, there are few places where you just put down the book and then cry and then come and pick up the book and read it again. So it is that heart wrenching. And if in case you're somebody who has a love story, and if in case you could relate your story to Khalil Gibran's, then the experience is absolutely therapeutic. The fifth fiction book that I would want to recommend is this one, The Select Short Stories of Rabindranath Tagore, and this is by Maple Classics. So now this book has a total of around 12 short stories, and each of these short stories are excellent because they have been written by one of those brilliant inventors of Bengali short stories, we could say. And of course, I love Tagore and his writings because Gitanjali, of course, it's one of the most brilliant and religious books that I've ever read. So, yeah, of course, I love Tagore and his writings. Now, if I were to talk about this short story collection, it is actually a cascade of experiences because you get to know about a number of things. For example, my favorite among the 12 stories is The Kabuliwala. I mean, we've of course read it when we were children, but then this time around, when I reread it, the experience was extremely different because it is, of course, a touching story. I mean, back when I was a kid, probably I couldn't understand the nuances of the story and the characters, but now I understood each and every character and the emotions that they would have probably felt. So, this is a must read. Yes, this book, another important thing is that it is set in India and more so in rural Bengali villages. So, of course, it's highly relatable and I highly recommend this collection. Yes, moving on to the second part of the video, I'm going to recommend a few non-fiction books that you should read, and these books are as well under 100 pages. The first non-fiction read that I would like to recommend is this one, We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Now, this book is actually a speech turned essay, and it is around 52 pages, and it is an extremely easy read. You'll probably finish reading it within 45 minutes at the max. The main theme of this book is feminism, and a lot of people have a number of uncanny opinions and notions about feminism. Where few people think that feminism is a movement where women try to dominate men, where they try to be arrogant and never listen to men, and so on. So, there are a number of misconceptions about feminism. So, this book will steer clear all those misconceptions that you have about feminism. Now, Adichie is actually aiming not to favor women or men. She's not talking in favor of any particular gender for that matter. She's only talking about a society where both are considered to be equal. Adichie herself, throughout the work, tries to respect and value both these genders, and it is extremely thought provoking. And I would want to read a few lines from this favorite read. I wanted to read a few of my most favorite lines, and these lines are largely relevant to today's world. Today, we live in a vastly different world. The person more qualified to lead is not the physically stronger person. It is the more intelligent, the more knowledgeable, the more creative, the more innovative. And there are no hormones for those attributes. A man is as likely as a woman to be intelligent, innovative, and creative. We have evolved, but our ideas of gender have not evolved very much. So, this is about how you don't need special hormones in order to lead. It is only your intelligence, your creativity, and your brain that is important in order to lead, and not your physical strength that is important in order to lead in today's world. So, it's actually about how even women can lead. They too have the capabilities to lead if, in case, they are intelligent and creative. It does not actually depend on the gender. Another line that I loved a lot is this: the language of marriage is often a language of ownership and not a language of partnership. Because most often in the Indian societies, we talk about how a wife is supposed to respect her husband, how she's supposed to behave, how she's supposed to cook, clean, mop, do everything for her husband. But here, Edichi is actually trying to say that even she needs respect, even she needs self esteem, and it is not about ownership. The whole institution of marriage is not about ownership, where the husband considers that the wife is his property, but then it is more of a partnership where both these people come together, the husband and the wife come together and do everything together. So it's not about ownership, but about partnership. So these two were lines that I really loved from this book. The second book that I would recommend is this one, A Call for Revolution by Dalai Lama. Now, this book is actually about peace, about compassion. I mean, the title is, of course, a contrary because he's calling for a revolution, but then you have to read the book in order to find out what sort of a revolution he is actually aiming at. Now, he's talking about a revolution of compassion that should dawn upon the world so that the world is a better place to live. This is one book that I would recommend to all people who are in their 20s. From the age of 20 to 30, probably you should read this book because this book is for the youth of the nation. Now, I will read one line that I like a lot about this book. Make good use of collective intelligence based on sharing. And above all, be the generation that acts. Now, generally, people always talk big things, but then it is always a question whether they follow those big things or whether they achieve those big things. And Dalai Lama is actually calling us to act. He actually wants us to be the generation that acts and not merely talks. So there's a hell of a lot of difference between the two. We're supposed to be people who act and not just preach or talk. Then another thing is that he actually talks about how a lot of antisocial people didn't get maternal love during their early ages. So he talks about how women in a society are very important. So there are a number of takeaways in this book for the youth of the nation. So this is a must-read book for people who are in your 20s. The next book that I would recommend is actually a series. There are two books in this particular series, and that is the Spencer Johnson series, which is Who Moved My Cheese and Out of the Maze. Now, Who Moved My Cheese is one book that I actually lent to my friend, and then I haven't got it yet because of the lockdown. So, yeah, I've already made a review of Who Moved My Cheese. I will leave it as an iCard here. You can check out that particular video as well. Now, both these books, Who Moved My Cheese and Out of the Maze, are actually about change management. Now, cheese is actually a metaphor for everything that you want in life. For example, happiness, wealth, a good job, a happy family, and everything that you would probably want in life stands for the cheese in this particular series. So, yeah, both these books, Who Moved My Cheese and Out of the Maze, in the form of parables, Spencer Johnson actually tries to tell you that change is something that is inevitable in life. And whenever there is change, we need to adapt to change. We need to be quick in adapting to change as well. Rather than adapting to change, it is important that you're quick in adapting to change as well. And changing with change is the key to success. According to Spencer Johnson, it is not, it's actually a waste of time if you're going to sit and grumble about your past, about how things were back then and not in the present. It is, of course, not going to be of any use to you. So he is calling for strict action. Whenever there is change, of course, it is difficult for us to change with change, but then it is something that we have to do in life. Who Moved My Cheese is actually about four characters, Hem and Haw, Sniff and Scurry, and the same characters are there in Out of the Maze as well. So it's actually a sequel. Out of the Maze is a sequel to Who Moved My Cheese. So these four characters, again, how do they evolve with change? What are the various changes? So it's actually in the form of a parable. There is a short story, and then you derive a number of life lessons from this metaphorical story. So therefore, this book, Who Moved My Cheese, as well as Out of the Maze, both of them, the series is absolutely brilliant and is a must-read self-help book. Because in the recent times, even universities prescribe something called as change management, wherein we are trained or we're getting trained to adapt to changes. So, of course, changes are going to happen and we need to adapt ourselves to them. So these two books are really good self-help books. Yes, that's it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you liked all the recommendations, and all the links to buy the books are in the description below. So please buy using those links, because I could generate a small amount of commission from each of your purchases, and that will help me run my show. Thank you. Thanks a lot for watching.